Welcome to Living Chassidus. Together, let's live the Chassidus we learn.
Morning, everybody, and welcome to Chassidus in the Morning. A new maamer. We're learning VeAta Tetzaveh, very, very famous maamer. Hachana for the upcoming Gimmel Tammuz, and yeah, very, very excited. This is a very famous, fundamental maamer. Okay, let's go straight into it. Basically, so a little bit of a background history to this maamer. This was the last maamer the Rebbe handed out in the later years. I guess a little bit more general history. And when the Rebbe passed away in 1987, I think it was, when the Rebbe stopped saying maamer. There was a few occasions that he did, but in general, maamer had stopped. There was sichos bein maamer, but the whole concept of like people would sing a maamer nigun, and they would hold onto a handkerchief, and then you would say a maamer, it stopped. But what the Rebbe did was he started editing maamer. So they would bring maamer, the Rebbe would prepare maamer, and the Rebbe would look it over. Before then, the Rebbe wouldn't really do that. There was a few occasions, but in general, the Rebbe wouldn't do that. So what would happen? The Rebbe would say maamer, people would write it down, and there'll be a nacha, and they write it down from like whatever, the editors, and they'd put it to print. And that's it. And the Rebbe would never look it over. Now, the quality, when the Rebbe looks something over, it's a whole, it gives a lot of validity, and it's a lot, makes a whole big difference. So there's 6 volumes set. It's called Sefer Mamarim Malukot, and that's a Malukot means like a compilation. It's published by Mamarim, and those Mamarim were looked over by the Rebbe. And so what happened was after the Rebbe passed away, the Rebbe started giving out Mamarim. So these were edited Mamarim. But sometimes the Rebbe himself would give it out, or sometimes they'll just like publish it. So the last one to be given out by hand was this maamer, VeAta Tetzaveh. Now this is actually a maamer from, like you'll see in the Sefer. I hope everyone has a Sefer or something to look on. It comes from Tafshin Mem Aleph. So what will happen is also in that Sefer maamer look at. If you look, they'll say the maamer when it was said, like in this case, 1981. 1981, and when it was published, it was given out, printed, edited. The edited version is 87, 88, 89, 91. That's what the 6 volumes said. So a lot of it's according to that year. So this was the last maamer. 2 weeks after this maamer was given out, that's when the Rebbe had a stroke, and the Chav Zayin Adar happened. Unfortunate or Hashkacha Pratis incident with that. Now, when you learn the maamer, why and so it says, people say that when in the beginning when they got the maamer, the Rebbe gave out like 110,000 or something. So in the beginning, got it out. They took it, they learned it, and it was good. 2 weeks later, when the Rebbe had a stroke, they all connected how this maamer is very pertinent. This maamer has a lot of fundamental things, and it's very much connected to the point that the Rebbe is trying to give over, trying to help us see and realize. And there's a few big major concepts in here that we discuss. It's a little bit of a long maamer, but we have some time. And Mitzvah Hashem, through the discourse along this maamer, Mashiach should come already. But if for whatever reason he doesn't, when we come to Gimmel Tammuz, we will have what to bring and what to think about, and the day won't just come by and we won't know what happened. When I was in, one more quick story before we start. One year, it was 2 or 3 years ago, I went to spend Shabbos before Gimmel Tammuz by the oil. There's a minog among Chassidim that they go to spend Shabbos by the oil. It's a huge crowd. You sleep in tents. You have a tent with food, and it's massive, it's wild, it's an experience, and it's it's very interesting. So we're having Frierdiker in an RV. So some people rent out an RV, and they sleep there. It's like a little bit some privacy. So we had a Frierdiker there, and there was a big gvir that he supports. Actually supports a few places. One of them is Mayinot, and he's a Chassidish Yid, like he's a Baal Tshuva, and he's a Chassidish Yid. So one of the things he said there, and it really hit me. I think that year I didn't learn this maamer. I've learned this maamer many times, Baruch Hashem. I think that you didn't. My Yitzhar was thought it was a chacham. He said, there's no reason why every year you can't learn this maamer. Every year you should learn it prior to Gimmel Tammuz. And it hit me. I decided, I said this is a good idea. We have learned this before in the past, in this year, not in this year, in this format, but in the old format, in person, whatever. We'll do this again, and I'm looking forward. I'm actually going to use this sefer. I haven't used this sefer before for the maamer. I used to use the original or in this, Nurturing Faith. And I'm looking forward. So let's begin. And a general idea of the maamer, a few general points. We'll talk about the connection between us and Moshe, and us and the Rebbe, and that relationship. Second big point we're going to talk about is that we want Mashiach, essentially. And we have to realize this. And he says ultimately, people don't recognize that want within them, but they have it and express themselves in many different ways. But really, we have to get to the core of the issue. What's really going on is we just want Mashiach. And yeah, Amit Hashem, with the source of learning this maamer, we'll bring Mashiach. Let's begin. We'll begin off with some questions, and then he'll lead into a whole discussion. In this sefer that I have, page 336, VeAta Tetzaveh Yisrael, it says in Parshas Tetzaveh, you should command the Jewish people, they should bring to you Shemen, Zayis, Zach, Kassis, Lamoer. Shemen, Zayis, olive oil, Zach, pure, Kassis, crushed, Lamoer, to the luminary. Lalas, Netamid, to light up the lights constantly. Talking about the menorah, and this discussion in the pasuk, we're going to ask about 5 questions on this. This pasuk is a very interesting pasuk, and that's going to lead us into the discussion. So we do it. My diukim is that's no the explanation of Chassidus on this. The question that I asked, the b'chol atzivur every commandment in the Torah, when Torah commands something, what does it say? Ne'emar says tzavus ben Yisrael. It tells Moshe, Hashem tells Moshe, command the Jewish people. Hachana, what does it say here? VeAta Tetzaveh. You should command the Jewish people. It's weird. Why should Moshe command the Jewish people? Moshe is just the messenger of Hashem. But here was saying that Moshe should command, implying that it's like Moshe's own thing. So what's going on over here? It says it's not about the question, not about, hey, why is his language different? What does his language mean? Because the lashon VeAta Tetzaveh, mashma shemoshe mitzaveh. When you say you should command, the implication is that it's Moshe's command. So how many understand? Moshe is just there to send to give the message of God. Moshe is the shliach of the Eibishter to explain to the Yidden what the Eibishter wants. But here it's implying that it's about Moshe. It's Moshe's own. Hashem saying the Moshe you should command for it's like for yourself. So what's going on over here? Why? What's the menorah got to do with Moshe? So why does it say that you should command? Implying that it's about Moshe, not about Hashem's command. That's one question. We got to need to understand. This is what it says in the pasuk. It says in the pasuk, you should command the Jewish people and should bring to you the oil. We said the pure crushed olive oil should be brought to you. So the question is, why is why should take to Moshe? Moshe doesn't like the menorah. Aaron likes the menorah. To you, to Moshe. Since it's Aaron's the one who's lighting the menorah. So why bring to Moshe? In the mishkan, in the desert, Aaron will lit the menorah. So Hashem is saying, Moshe, you should command the Jewish people. You, that's weird. And they should bring the oil to you. Why is it? And bring it to Aaron. That's another question. Thirdly, we have nothing to understand. Lama lahavin mashe kasuv shemen v'geimim kasis lamar. And then what do we say? We say should bring oil crushed to the luminary. To the luminary means like to the source of the light, which is confusing. Light the oil to enlighten. Meaning the purpose of the oil is to light. So what we're saying in the pasuk is the purpose of the oil is to the luminary, to the source of the light. It's just to use it for light. So what's going on here? In the fourth, I think that was the fourth. The next pasuk in the parasha, it says you should light the menorah me'erev ad boker, from the evening until the morning, meaning the whole night. But here it says in Pasuk, you should light the ner tamid constantly. Is it all the time? Is it tamid, or is it me'erev ad boker, from evening to the morning? It's one pasuk away from each other, and it seems like it's saying two different things. That's also we have to understand. So let's go through the question again. We have, why does it say VeAta Tetzaveh, the usual command, implying that it's Moshe's command? Really, it's God's command? No, seemingly. Then we have Vikvei Lecha, that you bring the oil to Moshe. Why bring the oil to Moshe? Bring it to Aaron. He lights the menorah. And then why do we say Kasis Lamar, crushed to the luminary? It should be crushed to light. And why? Yeah, and why does it say me'erev ad boker? It says in this pasuk, it says ner tamid, and the next pasuk says me'erev ad boker. Yeah, and you could sort of divide, I guess, the VeAta Tetzaveh, the usual command, is the language is different, but also the idea of it is different. I don't know if we can divide into two different questions. That's the main question. Yeah, and the summary has the full question exactly. That was Ois Aleph. That's the questions leading us in. Hopefully, it pulled us in to want to know the answers to the question. And now we can discuss what we really came here to discuss: the depth of the connection between Hashem, between the Rebbe and the Jewish people. Very, very beautiful memory. Ois base. We'll start it up and then we'll finish with Hashem tomorrow. Continue going. Okay. Mavar, so there's a very famous maamer that I actually want to learn it with us, like together. That is based, this maamer that our maamer is based off, and the Rebbe is sort of analyzing that maamer. And it's a maamer, it's called Gimmel Yehudim, Tafish Pei Zayin, 1927. If basically what happened was like this. I guess we'll explain that and I'll stop today. The story is like this. The Frierdiker Rebbe is in communist Russia at this point. At this point, communism is strong, and they're trying to blot out Judaism, amongst other things. And the Frierdiker is standing strong. But everything that he's doing is sort of underground, because it can't be official. He doesn't want to get in trouble. Now, he comes for him. He's in, can't remember where it was. I should say it somewhere. Anyway, he's in a bigger, more style. He's not in Lubavitch anymore, of course. Maybe he's in Rostov. And he makes a favoring, a big favoring. Now that's bad news for the Jews. You shouldn't be doing such things. And he does it. And he starts talking, and he says, and he's saying anti-government stuff, meaning keep Torah mitzvahs essentially. But unfortunately, in that time period when communism was around, you couldn't do this. And he has a big crowd comes to this ring. He takes a lot of l'chaim, and he starts talking. We have to give up, have a certain nefesh for Yiddishkeit, and don't send your kids to the public school system. And he's saying all these words, and they're not good words to be said publicly. And a lot of his secretaries in the Chassidim are very nervous about what he's saying. Sort of don't speak. And he's like, and he's very strong. He's very strong over there about it. And he goes, and I know that there's people in here that they're informers, and they're from the communists. And he goes, I don't care. You shouldn't listen to them. And that's essentially, according to the Das Tachton, meaning nature. Of course, there's everything is from a mile, but the nature, that's sort of what causes him to get arrested. A few months later, Yud Zayin Sivan, I think it is. So this is Purim, and that's sort of a few months later, he gets arrested. But this is sort of that he pushes the boundary. They all know he's doing things, and they're trying to get him, but sort of they're figuring it out. And then he's so brazen about it, so upfront, and he's so in their face about it, they can't handle it. And then they look to arrest him. And that's the maamer, and that maamer over there. So that's what we're basing our maamer off. And so the Rebbe is going to bring that maamer. He's going to discuss a few points of that. And unfortunately, we have to stop for today. But Amit Hashem tomorrow will continue from Ois base. Have a great day, everybody, and thank you very much for joining.